on a Friday. It's Mr. Irrelevant, presented by the all-new ESPN Wisconsin app. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber offices, One Call That's All studio at the Avenue downtown Milwaukee. Joshua DiMaggio is here. Will Sommers will be back momentarily. I sent him to fetch my lunch. It's more of an intern duty, I guess, but he
out of the goodness of his heart.
Yeah, nice fella. He said he's going to leave the soda, though, for my health.
Yeah, I mean, we were discussing it. Every meal for you must contain, like, the drink seems to be as important as the main course. Like, it seems like you decide where you're going to eat around the soda you're going to drink as part of it. That is what it seems like.
Oh, thank you, Will. Appreciate that. Here's the delivery. Got my Doritos, which is, we were debating whether or not Doritos is caffeine-free.
Probably is.
It doesn't say anything about caffeine.
Yeah, it's a fruit soda. I mean, that's crazy.
Little Mandarin action.
Just a classic carbonated sugar drink. 12:30. Get you fired up.
Yeah, I mean,
you said you needed a pick me up. A pick me up means caffeine.
Yeah, but I mean, sugar is the same dip. I've had two coffees, so I've already got the caffeine. I've had 2 coffees and Doritos today.
Sugar is not the same thing as caffeine. It is just simply not. Unless you're a hyper 6-year-old.
Which sometimes Strouf is. Will also said that when Strouf asked him, Will's first response was, "All right, for doofus, perfect." So Will knew.
Yeah, I like that.
That's good, Will.
Yeah,
you're learning from Joshy.
Yeah, the school of DiMaggio.
All right, the school of Hard Knocks. The school of Hard Knocks is all here today on Mr. Irrelevant Full House. Will Sommers is back after fetching my lunch. Producer Tiny Hands Hunter Vaughn back at the Everlake Solar Studio.
Fetching is particularly dismissive of someone.
I know, I was doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
I hope you understand I was making a joke.
I just wanted to be clear to Will that he's belittling you, despite you being nice to him.
Oh, I know. I was completely aware.
Okay, good.
All right, glad we're all on the same page. Let's get started. Big show today. We've got a lot to get into. We will dive into the Packers. Jim Rutledge said something stupid. Surprise, surprise. We'll react to that. Doc Rivers was on TMZ. Yeah, we're going to react to that. I've got a surprise for Joshy, and then we'll wrap up the show with what we learned, presented by Door County Distillery, as we always do. So, Pro Football Focus every year releases a list. It's kind of like you see in your local tabloid, like the 40 under 40, the 30 under 30. Pro Football Focus does a 25 under 25. So the 25 best players in the league that are under the age of 25. Topping the list this year, Detroit Lions lineman Penei Sewell, the best player in the NFL, 25 years or younger, according to Pro Football Focus. Plenty of notable names on that list. Except there's a team missing. A team that has subscribed to the youth movement. There's not a single Green Bay Packer on this list. For context, there's 5 Detroit Lions on this list. There is 0 Green Bay Packers on the Pro Football Focus top 25 list. I'm not going to run you through the entire list. It's interesting to see. It's interesting to see some of the names. Jaden Daniels is the top quarterback on the list. No shocker there. Jordan Love, for context, is 26, so not even eligible for the list this year. But for a team that has subscribed to the youth movement, a team that has preached young players and reloading in the draft and not signing free agents that are over to the age of 30, it has to be at least a little disheartening, and it is for me as a Packers fan, that not a single Green Bay Packer found their name on the 25 under 25 list published by Pro Football Focus. Now, don't get it twisted. Packers are a good team. They're a team that's been in the playoffs in back-to-back years. They're a team that will certainly be back in the conversation in 2025. But it does kind of beg the question when you don't see names like Tucker Kraft or Jaden Reed or Edgerrin Cooper or Evan Williams or Javon Bullard on this list, it makes you wonder, is the youth movement working? Because if you're the youngest team in the league, you should at least have a young superstar or star that appears on this list by PFF. Joshy, what's your reaction to 0 Packers on the 25 under 25 list?
I understand the reaction to this. We talked about it at length on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy this morning, 7 to 9 a.m. Fantastically produced show. This comes down to 2 main factors. One, many, if not most, I believe about 20 of the picks, maybe somewhere 18, let's say 18, at least 18 of the picks were all draft picks picked before the Packers ever made their first round selection. So the majority of the list, save for guys like Brian Branch, Puka Nacua, there's a few other names in there, Devin Achane, the corner for the Bills, there is a whole bunch of guys that the Packers never even had an opportunity to draft.
Yeah.
So the best guys in the league that are under 25 years of age are all guys the Packers, I'm sure, probably would have had some interest in. I think they would probably have been happy to have some of these guys on their team. Other instances where it points back to is there's really only players from 2024, a few from 2023 on there, but that's like just simply age difference. But in those years, the Packers have drafted their first round picks are not that good. Those are the guys you would expect to be there. Lucas Van Ness, Jordan Morgan, Quay Walker is above the age of 25, I believe also is Devontae Wyatt. So they're not even allowed to be on the list. So the Packers love youth, but they don't have the youngest roster anymore. Kenny Clark was like 19 as a rookie.
That's correct.
And would have been on this list, and I'm pretty sure was on this list.
I think it was. I think you're right.
For a few years. The real case you could make is Zach Tom would be a shoo-in. He would, I think, almost certainly be on this list. He's actively 25 years old. So that eliminates him. I think you look at the pass catching room, doesn't really anybody there because the names towards the end are like Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, all guys, Lad McConkey, all guys who have been a lot more productive than any of the Packers. The person you could maybe make an argument for is Tucker Kraft, but the production hasn't been there for the 2 years. It's understandable why Sam Laporta would get the nod over him, despite him and Laporta having virtually the same seasons.
I just want to add a quick twist to this, and I'm not sure if you saw this. PFF released a follow-up article to this earlier today.
I did not see that.
10 players who were just outside the rankings.
Is there 2 Packers? Just one? None.
0 Packers in the
Wow.
top. 35 under 25.
Who are the names that make the
list that didn't make the top 25? Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker, Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Joe Alt, Tavondre Sweat. Couple of Badgers here. Nick Herbig,
Yep.
Leo Chanel, Christian Gonzalez of the Patriots, and Quinyon Mitchell of the Eagles.
So I think that when we extend it to 30, because the top 25, all those guys, I looked at it and go, there's some really good football players.
Yeah, correct. There's a ton of really good football players on the list.
Guys you are like, yeah, this is top-end talent, probably going to be here for a while.
This is a real quick side note. Cooper DeJean made the list.
Yes.
Quinyon Mitchell didn't.
Yes.
Shouldn't that be the other way around?
Well, don't you know that PFF is smarter than everyone else in their grading system?
That's right. My bad.
Grading system tells us, and I don't. I mean, I imagine Mitchell isn't 25, but there is a little bit of that, and we all say it, but it is a form of ranking, and there isn't a Packer in the top 35. I would make an argument Tucker Kraft should be on the list in front, and definitely in front of those guys, the last 10 you named there. He's simply one of the best young tight ends in the league right now.
And he's only 24.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Maybe after this season, it'll be like, yeah, we probably screwed that up and picked like... I don't know how good Tavondre Sweat is.
I don't either.
I have a hard time making a case, but it is what it is to me, and it points back to the one thing: the Packers don't have the amount of superstars you would hope, and the Packers not having superstars is the reason they are falling short of their ultimate goal in Super Bowls. Had they had a few more of those guys, you'd be pretty optimistic about the team. But when you have big glaring misses, like, well, I don't want to call Jordan Morgan a miss yet. We've basically not seen enough of him to determine.
You're ready to call Lucas Van Ness a miss, right?
Yes.
And I think he's only 23 years old.
I'm at the point with Lucas Van Ness where I'm not going to count on him unless he makes me. In terms of, you have to prove it to me that you should be on an NFL field at this point versus me believing, like with Jordan Morgan, that he could very well end up maybe being a great left tackle who is here for years. Marshawn Lloyd, also in that incomplete. I have no idea what that guy's going to be once he sees the field. I believe he played 6 total snaps in the NFL last year. So those are incompletes. Lucas Van Ness, we have a body of work on, and it's rather unimpressive. Mm-hmm. And that's where the Packers have fallen short. The opportunity they had with the 13th overall pick in 2023's draft, correct? Because last year, no, that would be 2024.
Last year's draft was, who are you referring to?
Lucas Van Ness.
2 years ago, 23.
Okay. He would be the one that you would think should be on this list.
Yeah.
Premium draft capital, a guy who was supposed to be impressive, not even really a factor on the defense.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And I think it goes back to something you said at the top there, Joshy, which is something we've talked about a lot. I mean, I think we especially talked about it after the Packers couldn't beat good teams and then were bounced in the wild card round of the playoffs, and that is the Green Bay Packers lack superstars.
Yep.
Now, is that to say somebody can't evolve into that? Of course not, right? I think there's still plenty of time for Jordan Love, and Edgerrin Cooper is actually the name I'm most disappointed to not see be an honorable mention here.
I understand why he's not there, because he was not assignment disciplined. He made splash plays, some very big plays. A guy I think is going to be on this list come next year.
Yep.
But I understand why they wouldn't put out. He wasn't a full-time player, and he did have some glaring mistakes of, like, the things they're grading and looking at.
Yep.
He wasn't the best at.
That's where he gets his knocks.
Right, and that's why he didn't play more throughout the season.
Yep. He's still a young player. Now, when he was on the field, despite some of the mistakes, still covered for him quite a bit.
He quickly became a guy that every offense needed to take note of where he was.
And that's hopefully going to continue to be the case here in 2025. So to my point, I'm not saying the Packers don't have guys that will be superstars. They just actively have none, right? I mean, unless you disagree with that.
Superstars.
No, period.
Nah, Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs are both superstars.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's the end of the list.
Yeah, I think so. You would love Rashawn Gary to be on that list. You'd love Jordan Love to be on that list. They've shown at times,
Both of them, yeah.
play where you'd think, yeah, there's something here. Jane Reed, even, at times played like a guy who you would think, hey, I believe he's 25, though, right now anyway,
Yes,
so he wouldn't make the list. But the story of the Packers is inconsistency from some of those better players or those guys who shine the brightest. They can have disastrous games, or like Rashawn Gary and Jaden Reed, completely disappear for games on end. I mean, basically the entire second half of last season, Jaden Reed was a non-factor. Mm-hmm. And that's how you don't end up on this list. Now, could the Packers end up with 3 guys on this list in next year's version? Because Matthew Golden proves to be a guy that has to stay on the field. Savion Williams is an absolute star? Perhaps. Could go that way. Evan Williams, for whatever reason, becomes like undeniable. That's also a potential.
Fingers crossed on that one.
I have high hopes.
I really like him. So this isn't a doomsday segment. This isn't saying, hey, the Packers aren't as good as we think they are. It's just disappointing to look at a list. And this is just, basic surface level thing. It's disappointing to look at a list when you root for a team that has subscribed to the quote-unquote youth movement and not see a Green Bay Packer not only in the top 25, but the top 35.
It's an interesting juxtaposition to the whole thing about the team, youth. If you preach youth and you focus on youth and you don't have any guys in the top 25, I think you can rightfully look at it and be a little suspicious of Goody.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're bad draft picks. There's been good draft picks. Some of them might end up to be pretty bad, but a lot of the guys you look at, Jane Reed, good pick.
Good pick.
Not a great pick. Hasn't given us a reason to say great pick. Tucker Kraft.
Good pick.
Good pick.
Could be a great pick.
Could be. You're right. There's a lot of
same
those.
Same with Reed. Could be a great pick.
Yeah. There's a lot of those guys where it's like, yeah, I see it. Zach Tom. Good pick.
So, again, I don't view this list as maybe a sign of discouragement for the upcoming season. It's not how I view it. I view it more so as this will be, and I would say this right off the gates. This will be a list where there are Packers on it next year. I think Edgerrin Cooper leads the way in that category, but we will see. Hunter, go ahead.
Well, is there a number where you would have felt okay? Like, is it just, they needed to just have somebody on the list? Or
one.
Yeah, one.
Okay. You just needed to see one.
One would have done it.
I would like a little Green Bay representation.
One would have been good. 2, I'd have been quite pleased.
Yeah. It would have been a sign of, okay, things really are heading in the right direction.
And then seeing, what was it, 5 Lions on the list?
5 Lions in the top 25, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure 3 DBs, too, for them.
Yes. Brian Branch, who people got scared of because he didn't test well at the combine and then just immediately became one of the better players in the NFL. And everyone was like, yeah, maybe we should have trusted what we saw him do at Alabama against the best competition. Kirby Joseph, obviously, he was one of those guys that the Packers had an opportunity to draft, but it is what it is in terms of that. Was Jameson Williams on the list?
He was not.
He was not.
Maybe it was only 4. I thought it was 5.
Penny Sewell was up there. Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph.
Jameer Gibbs, Sam Laporta is the 5th.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and the Packers drafted Lucas Van Ness right after Laporta, if my memory serves me correct.
Yeah.
Because-
Shortly after. Was it
Yes.
the very next pick? Was he 12th?
I don't know if it was very next, but I know it was.
It was the same draft. You're right.
Yes.
And then he had the terrific rookie year, obviously got injured last season, but one of the better tight ends in the league. And
Yes.
proved that his rookie year. Now, again, I have faith that's what Tucker Kraft will become.
Yes.
I think he's going to be a really, really good tight end.
I also think the Packers are sort of their own worst enemy in terms of guys on the offense who you would hope would be on this list. Like, I believe if Tucker Kraft played for the Lions and Ben Johnson in that offense, he'd be on the list.
Oh.
Because their offense was the highest scoring in all the league. He saw a decline in his production. Sam Laporta did. Tucker Kraft saw an increase, and they about evened out in terms of production.
Okay, so that leads me to this question as we wrap up on this before we get to Jim Rutledge being a doofus. Speaking of that word. Who is this season most about? Right? Who needs to be vindicated most this season? Is it Goody, Love, or LaFleur?
It's Love.
I almost go LaFleur.
I think Matt LaFleur is pretty beyond reproach after what we saw him do with Malik Willis, turn him into somehow able to start a game and win games. I think we forgot that as things kind of spun out of control, but I think that was mixed with, like, it wasn't Matt LaFleur's best year last year.
No,
let's
say
that for sure. But I think the ineffectiveness of the passing game through Jordan Love's lack of performance and injuries caused the offense to spiral and end up in a spot where the passing game was ineffective, and it was really hard to justify taking the ball out of Josh Jacobs' hands because one part of the offense, the passing offense, could be disastrous and totally ineffective. And it seemed like every time you handed Josh Jacobs the ball, something productive happened. So they ended up in a spot where it's like, we probably wouldn't throw this much if we had some hope that guys are going to be in the right place, are going to catch the ball, or Jordan Love's going to make an accurate throw. Like, they kind of, I bet if you asked Matt LaFleur, he would like the passing game to be a lot better, and he'd like to throw the ball a lot more. He would prefer to be a passing team. These coaches and offensive coordinators aren't dumb. They know that passing leads to more points than running does. They understand the value of running, but on a play-by-play basis, passing the ball is going to be more productive when it comes to scoring points.
I'm really excited for this offense. I've said that on every episode all offseason. I just think this is going to be such a big year for LaFleur. It's going to be a big year for Love. And you still have, I think he's become an afterthought as we have all the excitement of Matthew Golden and the receivers and the tight ends being healthy together for the first time in a while. Still got one of the best running backs in the league in Josh Jacobs, right? Let's not forget that for this Packers offense. So I think this is going to be a really high-scoring team in 2025. I think it is going to be a really explosive team in 2025, and I think it is going to be a really versatile offense in 2025, which I think when you think of a guy like Matt LaFleur, you think of creativity, you think of versatility, you think of all the things he does really well. And to have both tight ends healthy, to have new wide receivers in that room, to have Jordan Love healthy, to have Josh Jacobs at your disposal, and some new backups that we haven't seen in a while, I think all make for really fun things. You're looking at something, you're distracted. Tell me what it is.
It's Charles Woodson wearing Browns gear doing an interview on Good Morning Football.
I miss it. Okay.
Yeah, I believe he's like a new owner.
Yeah, I think he got like 0.1%. Yeah.
Limited partner.
It just doesn't look right. It dismayed me to see him wearing.
I guess I didn't realize he was from Ohio.
Yeah, because he was a big deal.
Seen as Michigan.
Yeah, that was a big deal that he went to Michigan instead of Ohio. He's talked about that, and how he got ripped apart all the time then for doing that. And there's still people that are bitter about that.
So is this him trying to, like, repair his home state image?
I'm going to be honest with that rivalry. I don't think it matters. Like, that's the kind of thing that, like, Ohio State fans hang on to forever.
You went and won a Heisman for our biggest rival ever.
Right.
Hey, let's be honest. I think it worked out for Charles pretty well.
Yeah, he did okay. Yeah, he had an all right career. Yeah.
I think it's hard to argue that. I mean, maybe he would have won one at Ohio State. Who knows? But hard to argue against the proof of what we saw.
He's one of the best college football players ever.
Yes.
Period. End of sentence.
To ever walk the face of the earth.
And then he went on to become one of the greatest defensive backs to ever walk planet Earth.
But speaking of ownership, we've got an interesting quote here from Jim Rutledge.
What a transition from Joshy. Yeah,
Wow.
Jim Rutledge, Jim
See
Matt
that, Will?
Molly.
That's a pro.
It's showbiz, baby.
Well said, Will. Jim Rutledge, friend of show, host of Jim, Matt, and Molly, ESPN Madison. We know he's a Bears fan. He's typically our resident Bears fan, but now Will has joined the panel, so he's actually our resident Bears fan these days. But Jim Rutledge will join us during the football season quite often to have our respectful Bears conversations where I ask him questions about the Bears, and I mean it to be very respectful.
Do you think it's going to get disrespectful this year?
I mean, look, we've done, Hunter, how many have we done with Rutledge? It's probably 4 or 5 respectful Bears conversations on the show.
I want to say we're at I think the next would be 5. I think we've done 4 of them.
Okay. Got it.
Do we think that...
I think we will eventually introduce the disrespectful Bears conversation.
Do we think that with the addition of Ben Johnson, some of the things they did on the offensive line, that... Because let's be honest, the respectfulness of the conversation largely comes from Jim being a realist about the Bears and saying, like, they're going to be fine, they're not going to be great. But if he starts believing in the Bears, that could cause a spiral, could it not?
I got bad news. I think it's happening.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him a lot about the Bears. We talked a little bit last week when I called him.
I would give him this. This is the best excuse he has to get excited. Because I'm a big Ben Johnson believer. In terms of offense, I have no idea what to be as a head coach, but in terms of a guy who can craft up an offense, pretty damn good at it.
Hey, Hunter, do I hear Bears fan Joshy all of a sudden?
No, let's be honest.
A little bit. I mean, the way that you talked about the Bears last year and Josh called you a Bears fan, I think we can start calling Joshy a closet Bears fan.
Uh-oh.
Let's be honest. I was incredibly lukewarm to the effusive praise you heaped on the Bears in the offseason. You said the line, the best situation for a first overall pick, more times than I could ever count. It was dozens.
I stand by that. I mean, minus the coaching staff.
Well, the result would also tell us it was not.
I did not mean it from a coaching perspective, and you know this. Don't put words in my mouth. I meant it from a weapons around him perspective. Do you remember
what I said when we had this conversation last year? And I said, it seems like the 9th overall pick being a wide receiver is a vanity pick when you have so many issues on the offensive line.
You did say this. I will give you credit there.
What was one of the biggest downfalls of the Bears?
The offensive line.
Uh-huh.
And Caleb Williams held on to the ball too long.
Well, some of those things may be related.
Now, maybe he'll be able to fix that
Also, that was
this
an
year,
issue he had in college, too. And,
yes.
they just chose to ignore
which
it.
I pointed out as well.
Will's getting offensive.
Heisman issue.
Yeah, it's college football, Will. You can just be Superman and run around in the backfield for 10 seconds and do whatever you want. Like, it's college. I would hope that a guy that's going to get drafted in the NFL is better than most of the other guys out on the field.
Easier to extend plays.
I mean, what does the best player in college win? The Heisman.
He's right. Everybody's right here. Nobody's wrong.
No, we're arguing about something while we're all right. Except for Jim
for when you accuse me of being a Bears fan.
Except that. Yeah, we might be wrong about that.
No, I think you're teetering on that area.
Host of Jim, Matt, and Molly, ESPN Madison, weekdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Afternoon drive on 100.5 ESPN. I don't know what the impetus of this was. I just heard the clip because obviously with KBN, I'm on the air while Jim, Matt, and Molly's on the air here in Milwaukee. So I don't know how they got here, but somehow they got here, and we got another classic Rutledge rant where he also contradicts himself in the middle of said Rutledge rant. Take a listen and a view Jim Rutledge yesterday, Jim at
The Packers are not better off for not having an owner. I'm not saying they're worse off. My statement today, which I've said multiple times, but Packer fans in their fields can't ever get out of there. We're the sweetest, most Pollyanna team in the world, and we're owned by our fans, so, love us more than ever. No, I'm not here for that pathetic stuff. What I'm here to say is that the Green Bay Packers, and I will die on this hill, are not better off for not having an owner. I'm not saying other teams are. I'm saying the Green Bay Packers are no better or no worse for not having an owner, except for the fact that the Green Bay Packers wouldn't exist if they had an owner, because they would have been sold a long time ago.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? If they had an owner, they wouldn't be the Green Bay Packers. There you go. That's why they're better off. That is the number one reason. Now, I think the point he's trying to make is they do not have a franchise advantage because they don't have an owner. They don't, they have a CEO and president. They have a figurehead rather than an owner. But I don't really get the point.
In the same breath, did he not also say they're not also at a disadvantage?
Correct. He said
it seems like he was trying to say
they're neutral.
And this applies to a lot of things in life. There are some advantages and there are some disadvantages to the way things are currently constructed in Green Bay. And I think there's plenty of reason to argue on that fact. I just think he was trying to spin something there that I don't know came off the way he intended to.
But that's kind of my takeaway also. I just love how in that clip that was sent around to us here at ESPN Wisconsin, this might be Ryan Wollersheim's fault, his producer, who cut the clip. He ended the clip with, I'm not saying they're better off or worse off, except for the fact of why they're better off. And again, here's the thing. I'm very happy to not have an owner. Right? I see what goes on in Dallas. Right? I see what goes on in Chicago. I see what happens when you have incompetent owners.
So I think this started because of the Favre documentary and how things went with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers in their time there, because there was nobody there who would say, put their foot down and put an end to their behavior and the way they acted on the way out. They didn't say, we're done with Brett, we're done with Aaron. It carried out, and it was to the detriment of the team for both those eras. Aaron Rodgers last year, they missed the playoffs. I believe it was 4-12 the last year for Brett Favre, if my memory serves me correct on that. So yes, at times, I agree with Jim. Not having an owner and not having somebody who come in swinging the big stick and say, enough of the bleep. We're done with it. Move on. Things bubble, they carry on, and they become it's a zit on the side of the face of the Packers. They've got a big zit there. They got a guy who runs the show, a guy who's not talking to his teammates, who has his own locker room. And
that part's that I always forget about that. I watched the Favre documentary the other night, as we talked about, and they mentioned that, and I watched it with my girlfriend, and she goes, "He had his own locker?" Yeah. I go, "Yeah, he certainly did."
Yes. So from that point, I do agree. The flip side of that, though, is you don't have a meddlesome owner. Now, some owners are great owners. They own the team. They let the football people make the decisions. They sign the checks. They're the figurehead. They do nothing more. They go out there. They're the meat shield when you need them to be. Yep. Or they could be like Dan Snyder. Like Jerry Jones.
Stop right there, because I want to bring in Seth. Will, you might get replaced by Seth in the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat because he's cooking right now. It has nothing to do with you. He's on fire. He said, "What do you think the breakdown is? Probably about 5 good owners, 16 average owners, and 10 bad owners." I would say that's probably fair. Seth goes on to say, "A Bears fan of anyone in the NFL should know bad ownership can kill your team." And then he goes on to say, to your point on Dan Snyder, the Commanders are a perfect example. Bad owner Snyder, good owner Harris. See how fast that flipped for them, which is a really, really good point by Seth. Because they go from the turmoil of Dan Snyder, where they can't get anything right. There's so many distractions going on because of the bad ownership. He sells. They're in the NFC Championship game. Now, there's obviously other decisions that led to that, but Josh Harris has done so far a really nice job in terms of, leading the Commanders. He won or got to the NFC Championship game last season. He also runs Crystal Palace, who won the FA Cup.
Yep.
And then he had something else that went really well for him. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but
to me, it's quite simple. A bad owner can sink your team. a good owner makes it easier for the football people to succeed.
Yep.
Jim Irsay also was pretty good at letting his football people do football stuff. Now, they probably weren't as good as you would hope them to be, but also hiring and firing are decisions made from there. So sometimes he didn't make the right football decisions in terms of the people there, but I see it both sides, and I think it's unique what the Packers have, and at times it works to their benefit, and times it works against them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think,
but I think that also applies to most things in life.
I think you're absolutely correct on that. So Rutledge Rant, I'd give it like a C.
I think he had to eject. I think he had to take. It made sense for the Favre thing, but then you had to eject when you started pointing at, well, there are bad owners that do bad stuff, so then you got to kind of meet in the middle there.
Yeah. Well,
quick question.
No, go ahead, Hunter.
What the hell does Pollyanna mean?
I'm glad you asked. It's like being like sweet and ignorant and optimistic, positive.
It's almost you have like the blinders on type thing.
Yes, in a way. It's a different way of saying, the green and gold colored glasses.
Yes, that
you
we
are
often reference.
Yes.
That I wear very tightly.
Yes. You are an eternal optimist. You don't want to hear the negative, you only accept the positive.
So I guess what we're jumping to the conclusion on here is that I'm Pollyanna.
I think most people who are fans of teams that had even modicums of success, they could be considered Pollyanna because I've seen things go well in Green Bay, so I therefore am rather positive.
I'm a fan of always evolving, and I believe us as a show can always evolve and change and get better. And obviously, like Will's been around more, and it's been great having him around. And obviously, we added Josh to the show last year, and me and Hunter, we're always open to new ideas when we do our sessions before the show. As Hunter and I kind of dive in and figure out what we're doing today. Will, I think I have a new task for you going forward.
Hit me.
I think anytime Josh drops a word that you don't know, you should write it down, and then in what we learned, presented by Door County Distillery, you should say, these are the words I've learned. I don't know what they mean, but because today you would agree with me. Modicum. I mean, he's probably dropped 15 words today. I don't know.
It gets to the point, too, where like usually you can use the context clues around it to have a vague understanding of what it means, but today it's just a conglomerate.
His brain is firing today, which I'll give him credit
Josh
on. I'm not
bag.
knocking him. I haven't been leaning into the vocabulary book thing that I've always leaned into. He's been in a really good role, and he's provided really good stuff
Aside
for the show.
from modicum, I don't remember saying anything that would be strange.
When we were talking about the youth movement, you used quite a few, and I just you were rolling. You're having a really good show. If I'm evaluating you halfway through,
does it work in my favor that I don't even know I'm using words like that?
Yes. Absolutely.
So it makes it less of a put on.
Yes.
Some people think, and you've accused me of this before, but yours is more tongue in cheek to a degree.
Yes.
There are people out there who very much dislike what I have to say because they think I'm like trying to talk down to them. I don't even realize it 99%. Sometimes you'll see me give a smile and say, oh, here comes one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the other times it's just I'm just speaking.
The thing is, Josh is being way too humble to say it right now. He's an intelligent guy. Like, he reads a lot. He's a smart dude.
Reading does just force you into having a vocabulary of that's like you just
of that what
the style, like where you use words.
You're gonna use a big word there.
No.
I thought I was gonna use the word elk. See, I'm learning.
That's a 3-letter word.
Still kind of a unique word, though. I see where Will's coming from.
See, I was going to ask Josh, since we regularly dive into why Josh and Strouf are the way that they are. Like, Josh, did you grow up with like your parents using what we would consider bigger words too? So it's just normal for you?
My dad. So to me, it's very natural. He's been saying things like that to me for as long as I can remember, to which at certain ages I had a, what the hell are you saying? But then I became more of a reader, and it probably hammered it home.
Sure.
But like the words I use to me are commonly used words because they were used at home to me. Like if someone's saying it to you all the time, it doesn't seem strange.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So I learned as mainly in front, and until I got in front of a microphone, I learned that I spoke different. That my form of communication was not really what people are used to in their day to day.
I think that's.
And that having Mussolini also, because sometimes I get the just say blank blank blank, like Will today, who also said to me when I used the word receptacle.
Oh yeah.
When I said receptacle, I was using it very correctly and specifically, but he said, "Why don't you just say a cup?"
Which is a good follow-up. Okay, we need context in
Yes.
the conversation. So Greg Marcus Theater's very big in Wisconsin and I think in the Midwest overall.
Yeah.
Was at, I assume, at WTMJ today.
Yes.
And he brought, I almost swore, a ton of popcorn.
A bleep ton.
Copious amounts.
Such a
I like when he starts to use words, then he celebrates them. Like, yes, got one in.
It's such a good bit. So he brought in a ton of popcorn, like giant ass bags of popcorn.
Yes, body size pillow, body pillow size popcorn.
So Josh was like, "Oh, sweet popcorn. Where can I? Do they have receptacles out there?" And you didn't know what that word meant, correct?
I thought he was talking about glasses, like
I've really
eyewear.
only heard the word receptacles when it comes to garbage cans.
Yeah, I was using it in like the general sense to describe. Is there maybe, popcorn bags you can get them at that are commonly found at concession stands? Did they maybe bring the buckets that you use at the Marcus Theater? Or bowls? What item am I going to use? Because a big bag of popcorn, I'm not just going to walk out there and start digging my hands in there like a savage. I need a receptacle.
I'm not saying the question was wrong, but my brain is like small, so you could have just used simpler verbiage.
But at this
I
point,
could have.
is that Josh then actually talking down to us? Like, shouldn't we just let Josh be Josh and we have to raise ourselves up to Josh's level when it comes to his vocabulary?
Again, I think we're evolving. I think we're all growing together. I think this is good.
Because receptacle's definition, as it's here on the internet, an object or space to use to contain something. So it's extremely vague, and I was using it vaguely on purpose. Because I was describing all sorts of possible things that could be a receptacle. Because I didn't want to say, is there cups out there? And then he responds, there's a bag.
All right, we're done. We're done with this.
Wait, hang on.
Brain hurts.
Seth is on fire in the YouTube chat. His idea is add a word battle to the show, similar to Are You Smarter Than?
No. It would just be embarrassing for me. I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
You ran a three-cone drill and had millions of people see it.
That's fair. But keep in mind, my favorite word, I don't even know if I've ever said this on this program, but I've said it to my friends often because I love the word. My favorite word in the English language is pocket. Because the word pocket is very versatile, and I love versatility. Pocket. Obviously, you have one in your jeans, right? You have a jeans pocket,
Yes.
right? You can have a pocket of time. You can have a pocket of space. You can have, right? There's so many different ways you can apply the word pocket.
Sunshine.
A pocket of sunshine.
Pocket full of sunshine.
Well,
I gotta love that is all mine, right?
In that sense, it was just the pocket like in the jeans. That's the reference there.
In what?
The song he's singing, Pocket Full of
But
Sunshine.
it could still
yeah,
be
true.
a space.
You know
of
what a pocket
sunshine.
full of sunshine is?
Me.
No. It's a drug.
Really? Which one?
Which one, from what you know about all the drugs,
Yeah.
would you consider
know
to be a
anything.
pocket full of sunshine?
I know nothing about drugs. Marijuana?
No.
Cocaine.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what
Those are the only two that came to mind.
that's what that's in reference to.
Okay, there you have it.
The more you know.
Learn something new every day. It's what we learned in a bit. Speaking of learning something new every day, I knew TMZ got after people, right? Like I've always followed a little bit TMZ and the craziness that goes into being a member of the paparazzi. At some point, I would like to have a paparazzi member on the show because how do you even get into that? I don't understand it. But anyway, Doc Rivers out eating dinner last night and gets approached by not one but two members of paparazzi, and TMZ is ultimately who obtained this footage, and was asked about, well, the obvious storyline around the team he coaches, the Milwaukee Bucks. Will Giannis Antetokounmpo be a Buck in 25-26? Of course, the big question. The paparazzi starts asking Doc about potential trades. Will they trade him? Has he talked to him? It's just awkward. Take a look, take a listen. This is Doc Rivers, TMZ footage.
Would you consider trading Giannis for Cooper Flag?
There's some things I don't even have to answer.
Have you talked to Giannis lately? I know there's rumors that he might get,
Guys,
traded.
I'm not doing all that. I talk to him all the time. You can move on now. Thank you.
He just wants nothing to do with it. And it's phenomenal. Because, look, he worked in media when he wasn't coaching. He understands the rumor mill. He understands the debate culture we live in. Giannis would be best as a Rocket. Giannis would be best as a Spur. Giannis should go back to the Bucks. It's what we're going to do for the next several months as the NBA offseason eventually gets here, continues, free agency, the draft, etc. It's all going to be, will Giannis be a Buck in 25-26? This is just a dude during his offseason out having a nice steak, and as soon as he walks out of the restaurant, he's peppered with questions about the only thing that's being talked about outside of the games being played in the NBA world. I love how dismissive he was. He was also very kind. He said hello, how you doing, as he walked out of the restaurant, and then those were the questions he got. The very first question he got was, would you trade Giannis for Cooper Flag? And he responds with, there are questions that aren't even worth answering. I just loved the approach by the Bucks head coach here as he is hounded by the paparazzi.
I also love
It feels... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the look he gives after the question gets asked of he contemplated going a different route with them and made a life choice right there to be like, I'm going to be respectful right now, but that's not how I want to answer this. So I appreciate that.
A life choice.
It feels like this tells us how big the scenario is. Not that we needed any reminder of that as Wisconsinites.
No, we do not.
But how often have you ever seen a Bucks head coach being questioned in front of TMZ? The fact that he's even an he's even an intrigue to paparazzi is fascinating to me, which sort of elevates what feels like an inevitability, but just how much everyone else is paying attention to what we got going on here in Milwaukee.
It's the biggest story in basketball that is not the Western or Eastern Conference Finals. And to be real honest with you, it might be bigger.
It feels bigger than the Western Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm. That's true because Thunder up 2-0 and it hasn't been close tonight over the first two games. SGA after accepting
the
his
New York
MVP trophy last night.
The New York factor and Tyrese Halliburton playing the way he has certainly elevated that series.
It's fun. Game 2 is tonight between the Knicks and the Pacers after the Pacers win at MSG Wednesday night, which, by the way, we haven't had a show since then. Holy smokes, they did it again. The Indiana Pacers are unbelievably irritating, but it's actually to a point where I kind of have to respect it. I'm not rooting for them, but I just have to respect what I'm witnessing. Down 8 with 47 seconds left, they find a way to come back again. Tyrese Halliburton pulls a Kevin Durant. She was just a bit too big. They would have won the game, brought it to overtime, but Pacers win in nice fashion in Game 1 over the Knicks.
I'm rooting for them.
You are?
But because I got a nice plus 150 series bet at Potawatomi. So
you're rooting for your pocket. You're not rooting for them.
Correct. I thought they were undervalued, disrespected.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Every time they've been tasked with being impressive, they've just been impressive.
Correct.
At some point, you just have to believe what your eyes are telling you. And that's what that bet was. I bet on them to cover the 4.5. They ended up winning the game. I bet on the money line, and then I bet on them to win the series.
I really like that line from you, Josh. You just have to believe what your eyes are telling you, right? And when it comes to Tyrese, a lot of Wisconsin people and Bucks fans are upset with him, right? Because he's an Oshkosh native. He went to Oshkosh North High School. He grew up in Oshkosh. Ultimately, he went to college at Iowa State and then made it into the league. And I think for at least the beginning of his career, there was a lot of Wisconsin pride around Tyrese, right? People were wrapping their arms around him like they even did with Tyler Harrow after he decommitted from Wisconsin and went to Kentucky. Just be like, hey, he's one of us. He's from here, right? It's cool to see a superstar in a professional sport that's from Wisconsin because we don't have a lot of those. And then, he starts taking shots at Wisconsin, and then he starts beating up on the Bucks, and then his dad gets into it with Giannis, and you feel like he's being cocky, and there's that little rivalry that's brewed the last 2 years between the Pacers and the Bucks. So less arms were wrapped around him, but just to see the pure brilliance that Tyrese Halliburton, and Luck to a point, I mean, that shot he made at the end of regulation on Wednesday night was one of the craziest shots I've ever seen. It wasn't quite the level of Kawhi Leonard against the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals, is that 2018, 2019? But it had the same trajectory, right? Top of the key, well, not same trajectory, but same craziness. It hits the rim, it hits the backboard, it goes into the air, swish. It's just a shot you'd never really seen before. And then obviously he pulls out the Reggie Miller homage, pays respects to Reggie Miller, who's sitting courtside working for TNT, as he does the choke a little prematurely, though, because it was only a 2-pointer. But it was really, really impressive.
He was getting a choke in this series no matter what.
Oh, without a doubt. And that was, if he thought it was a game winner, that was the time to do it. But at MSG, but ultimately had to go to overtime. They still won the game, though. So I'm not rooting for the Pacers, but I'm not necessarily rooting against them. I mean, we're at the point in the playoffs where I kind of was a Thunder fan growing up. I worked for WelcomeToLoudCity.com for a few years. So I'm kind of...
Welcome to Loud City. Really?
You can't just slip that in there.
Why not?
What do you mean you worked for Welcome to... What does that even mean?
So the nickname of Oklahoma City...
Welcome to Loud City.
That might be the dumbest city nickname I've ever heard.
I don't disagree with that, but I didn't nickname the city. Loud City is Oklahoma City's nickname.
And when you say you worked for Welcome to Loud City, did they pay you a small fee for writing articles on their website?
Yep, you got it.
Does Welcome to Loud City still exist?
I believe so, yeah. It's SB Nation's Thunder blog. And so that was like my first media experience. I was, I think, in 8th grade when I started writing for them. And I did it for 3 years, I think.
An 8th grader writing articles about your favorite team. That's how you know you're big time.
I was a pretty good writer, Josh.
Sure.
Did you know I worked in newspapers as well?
I did know that.
Yep. So
I don't know if it still exists. The company Wi-Fi won't let me on it because it's not safe.
The fact that you just felt it necessary to throw out your Oklahoma City Thunder bona fides was remarkable.
Bona fides.
That is a special Stroufism.
It does still exist, but it has moved to Substack apparently, as of March of 2 years ago.
SB Nation stopped paying the checks.
Vox's decision to remove funding for Welcome to Loud City in late January of 2023.
I just want to know what the hiring process was like. Like, oh, we got this new 8th grader. Genius.
I had to submit
protege.
I had to submit 3 writing. They didn't know I was in 8th grade. I never told them my age. Of course, I submitted 3 writing examples.
Well, they paid you, so they had to know your age.
I think they kicked it up the ladder. I don't think like the person that made that decision knew how old I was. Anyway, I also had a pseudonym at that point in my life.
What'd you go by?
Nothing crazy. A.W. Strouf I went by, rather than Alex.
Oh.
I just thought it seemed very authory of me.
He was trying to get an
Dr.
endorsement
Seuss.
with A and W is what was really happening.
I view it more as H.H. Holmes style.
Yeah, something like that. So anyway, there's that story.
H.H. Holmes was a serial killer.
Thanks.
Oh, didn't know that. Didn't know that. I was just going to agree and move on.
Yeah. Devil
I
Lloyd
love
sitting
that
out
he
of your
just
head.
blindly agreed to that. That was great.
Yeah,
Well, I trust Joshy. I trust him not to put me in a bad position, and that's exactly what he did there. So it happens. So
J.K. Rowling?
I know who that is. Harry Potter, right? It's all right.
J.R.R.
Ewing.
Come on. Strouf.
J.R.R.? J.R.R. That's what you said, right? J.R.R.? I don't know who that is.
Tolkien?
I don't know who that is.
Jeez.
Wrote The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, literally the greatest fantasy
earlier.
writer of all time. No, I'm not letting that slide, Strouf. That's bad. Like, that's a bad
T.S.
level
Eliot?
blind spot.
Well, it's pretty clear who on this panel reads fantasy and who doesn't, right?
Yeah, who spends their time?
I've never read a J.R.R. Tolkien. He's just one of the most famous authors to ever live.
Okay.
He literally created a
most popular
language
movie.
and then was like, maybe I should make a story around it.
Next. Moving on. We're moving on.
S.E. Hinton?
I mentioned earlier, as a show, we're going to continue to evolve and change and try to grow and try new things.
J.D. Salinger?
So while we continue, I actually know who that is. Catcher in the Rye?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say Fahrenheit 451. Never mind.
That's Ray Bradbury.
Yep. That's exactly what that is. Who's the other author that wrote 1980?
George Orwell?
Yes,
1984.
Orwell. Yes, George Orwell. 1984. Thank you. Great book.
Average
Oh,
book.
you've read that?
Oh, come on. Yeah, I had to.
Yeah, you had to. It's cool.
book. Yeah.
I didn't have
Just like
to.
The Outsiders. Everybody had to read The Outsiders, right?
No.
Nope.
Oh, I did.
Nope.
Read The
Great-
Color
great
Purple
book
in
also.
school.
Don't know what that is. Stay golden, pointy boy. All right, so we're continuing to evolve and grow and change things and try things on Mr. Irrelevant, trying to stay relevant, you know? And I had this moment of inspiration today.
Clairvoyance, if you will.
Clairvoyance. Something that washed over me and just said, Strouf, you got to try something new today. I said, you know what, clairvoyance? You're right. I do need to try something new today. You like how I spoke to it like it was a person?
Yes. Claire.
Claire, last name Voyance.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if Saturday Night Live was fresh on the brain because they just had their season finale for season 50, and there's rumors swirling that Colin Jost and Michael Che will be leaving the anchor desk for Weekend Update. And on the final episode every year of Saturday Night Live, Michael Che and Colin Jost will do joke swaps. They will write jokes for one another. Rather than going that direction, I decided that we could start a segment kind of called Best of the Rest, maybe, or Irrelevant News, or Irrelevant Extra. I don't know. We haven't named it yet. But what I have is a news story that I found earlier this week. And I want Josh to read the story verbatim, but also you are allowed to interject your thoughts as you read the story. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know how I'm going to do on the first version of this because the main flaw to your plan
Is you reading.
reading aloud.
Yeah.
Not my strength.
No, that's actually exactly why I thought of the idea.
Because there might be, it's what happens between an article or reading something and it coming out of my mouth. It's kind of like a game of telephone, except for there's one person and it's the words in front of me.
All right, here we go. It is time now for our first edition of, I don't know what we're calling this yet.
This story is out of Albany, New York. Local news anchor Olivia Jacquith went ahead with a 3-hour morning newscast even after her labor contractions began and her water broke, keeping viewers updated about the coming birth of her first baby. That is preposterous. No job is worth having a baby. What is she telling them? 6 centimeters now. Making our way there. This is a quote. We do have some breaking news this morning. Literally. Co-anchor Julia Dunn said at the top of the CBS 6 Albany broadcast Wednesday morning, Olivia's water has broke, and she's anchoring the news now in active labor. Isn't that like a sanitary issue?
Yes.
Early labor, replied Jacquith,
I don't know.
who was 2 days past her due date. You know something about me? I was about a month after my due date.
Really?
Yeah, my mom had me cooking in there for a long
10
time.
months?
Yeah.
Were you a giant baby?
Yes, like I think 12, 13 months.
Holy
Yeah.
my
God. Yeah. Yep. Jacquith stayed on air as Dunn kept recording on Facebook Live.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm happy to be here, and I'll stay on the desk for as long as I possibly can, Jacquith said. But if I disappear, that's what's going on. Jacquith had the option of going home, but she told the Times Union that she decided to pass the time at her job rather than nervously waiting around at the hospital.
So there you go. That's your first story. My couple takeaways from this are, number one, what the hell are we doing? You are proving nothing to nobody.
No, it's not like a hard labor job. I think people are rather after your water breaks, I feel like you could get away with murder. In terms of, you can speed to the hospital,
right.
You get pulled over, they'll be like, okay, I understand, this is a big there are few moments in one's life that are bigger than the birth of their child. Shout out to my friend Kyle. His first child just came last night at 2 a.m.
Congrats, Kyle. Good for you.
Nice. Shout out to him. Was very happy to get that news very early in the morning. But, what are you doing?
So my other takeaway from this, and this comes from Mike Spalding, who I was running this idea past, who's the director of content at our sister station, 620 WTMJ. He said, boy, when she gets into management, she's going to be interesting. Right? Oh, you have a headache and you need to go home? Well, I gave birth on the air, which is a great point by him.
Yeah, this is a little try hard to me.
Agreed.
Just go take care of yourself. And now, I nor anyone else here are going to claim to be experts on having babies or birthing children. Is it wise to be like, once you've gotten to that point?
It sounds to me like she knew she was fine.
Yeah.
Because she said anxiously waiting in the hospital. It sounded like she knew it was going to be a few hours. I don't know if this is her first child or not. I don't know if it said that in the story.
I think it said it was her first.
Well, you're right. Yeah, birth of her first baby.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody said to her, well, after your water breaks, you still have a couple hours probably. I don't know. It was an interesting...
Yeah. And I don't know how sensationalized the version is on television, but like at a certain point, it affects the way you would speak, the way you would be able to focus.
You'd be in pain.
Yes, yeah, excruciating pain as far as I've heard.
Yeah. Well, you were a 13-pound baby. Your mother would know.
Yeah, that bizarre. I feel like that's an ultimate moment where somebody with a higher pay grade needs to step in and say, "Hey, I appreciate it. I'm sorry.
It's a lovely gesture. Get out of here."
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't, because like I have to imagine there's also then some responsibility on the job.
Oh yeah.
Despite the hazmat issues of your water breaking. I was
just about to say that your pop with the sanitary issues was fantastic.
But like at some point you have to take someone else's best concerns into mind.
100%.
Now, I don't understand. I know it takes a while. Oftentimes it can take way longer than some others.
Yep.
But I imagine once the water breaks, that's probably time to get your butt in gear.
Huh? I would agree. Ron the Key chimes in on the YouTube chat. Again, this is why women are greater than men, which is a fair point.
I won't argue.
No arguments here.
Like, I know my parents told me the story that, like, when my mom's water broke when she was giving birth to me, that like they went grocery shopping to like get
really
because then they were like, okay, we need to get these things because we're not going to be around then, and like so you do have some time. Finishing up the shift and like getting the show done, like no, that's still crazy, but like again, there is some time. Like it isn't like oh my gosh, we have to speed to the hospital right this second sort of scenario.
I don't want to be too judgmental because you can make your own decisions. It is good. It just feels like you like work too much.
Yeah, well, Ron and the Key chimes in once again with a point on that. Maybe she was strategic. If it goes viral, she gets mega popular and maybe allows for career advancement. And then he says, I don't hate that. Could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
No judgment. But it sounds like healthy birth. I left that part out of the story. Healthy birth, everything's okay.
I would imagine the story doesn't get written.
Correct.
If things go not their way. So congratulations to Olivia Jacquith.
I'm going to have to save this link for the next time Josh is out with quote-unquote strep throat.
Say I'm not grinding enough?
No.
This woman gave birth, damn it. You learn something new every day. We learned something new today. Time now for what we learned on Mr. Relevant, which is presented by our good friends at Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. It's a holiday weekend, baby. I know you're getting after it, and you better, if you're stopping at the liquor store, pick up some Door County Distillery. If you're mixing up old fashions, cherry brandy infused with local Door County cherries, or three options, really. Single malt whiskey, 27-time gold medal award winner, or, if you're like me, I prefer a bourbon old-fashioned. I love the Door County Distillery bourbon. I drink it on the rocks. I've drank it in old-fashions. It is really, really good bourbon. It's affordable. It's under $50, but delicious, award-winning, and available all over the great state of Wisconsin. Whether you're here in Milwaukee, if you're in Madison, like Tiny Hands, if you're up in Green Bay, if you're in Stevens Point, wherever you're at, Door County Distillery can come to you. It's available wherever great liquor is sold. You can check out their website, too, doorcountydistillery.com. They've got a great search tool. What are you looking for? You want the Door County Distillery bourbon? Click that checkbox. Type in your zip code. It'll tell you the place nearest you. It is, as well as a huge list of unique cocktail recipes. All right, we just mentioned Facebook Live in the story about Olivia Jacquith. And number one, I think Facebook Live is going away. I could be wrong on that. But secondly, I went on Facebook today, and my buddy, one of my best friends, is down in Florida right now for a wedding. And so he's been like day drunk the last 3 days. He poked me on Facebook today. I didn't know, number one, that was still a thing. And number two, What does that mean? I mean, back in the day, it was like, hey, I have a crush on you. This
It
is
was
my way
flirting.
of showing this.
I think now it's just funny.
Because nobody's used it regularly
Right.
in, 10 years? That might even be an understatement.
I haven't had Facebook in about 10 years.
Yeah, 15 years probably the last time poking was. Oh, you had a Facebook at one point.
Yes.
What social media do you have? Just Twitter
Twitter.
and TikTok.
Yes, but I don't post on TikTok.
But you don't
So
have
I
an
could have been
Instagram.
sending like TikToks instead of having to download them and put them in the group chat. I could like actually just send them to both of you. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm an
Make
observer.
my life a lot easier.
I'm an observer.
Indeed. All right. Anybody else got a quick what we learned?
I feel like we've talked about this, me, you, and Will, but I think it is worthy of attention. The Gorilla tour the All American Rejects are on that has gone mega viral.
Yes.
I'm just impressed with the idea. Because had I thought the All American Rejects are going to do this, just show up to spots and start playing music, I'd be like, how many people are they going to get? They're like going to these college towns, do kids really mess
smashing
with? And they are the biggest thing going right now and have made themselves untold millions because I think this is going to resonate in a way that puts them into like mega tours.
Do you think other bands will follow suit?
I don't know. I think it's very specific to this genre that sort of, through the help of TikTok, has seen a resurgence. There's been plenty of bands that have gone on tours.
You're talking like punk rock?
Punk, alternative.
Sure.
But like there's bands that have gone on tours and sold out tours that hadn't toured in like 20 years. And they were like still a band, but not making music. And there was sort of no relevance. They were just sort of a thing floating in the ether. Now the All American Rejects are further along there and they're still playing those like When We Were Young festivals and and stuff like that. But now with the way this has taken off, they've created what people love, a sort of idea of exclusivity. I get to do something no one else does. It's a secret concert.
You guys aware where this tour kicked off?
Green Bay.
Yep.
Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Which when I saw that, I was like, what the hell are they doing there?
My brother texted me the night before and he goes, the All American Rejects just announced a pop-up show up the street from my house. Should I go? And I was like, I don't know. Should you? And he goes, all you need to do is donate a perishable food item.
Yes.
And I was like, oh. I don't think he ended up going. But I saw them last year at Summerfest.
Don't you mean a non-perishable, by by?
What did I say? What did I say?
You said perishable.
Non-perishable.
The exact opposite.
No. Don't bring tomatoes. Yes. Bring canned tomatoes.
Raw ground beef.
No, I saw them last year at Summerfest, and they still put on a really good show. And there was a good amount of people there because obviously, I mean, they got a ton of number one hits. They're a big time band. They just haven't made a hit song since probably 2010. Gives You Hell, I think, was probably their last big song.
Yes, and I believe they did release a new album. I don't know the name of it. I haven't looked yet. So this is in promotion of that.
Oh, that's smart.
Which I don't know if it's even doing them any good for that. I'm sure sales will tick up with the level of viral
definitely.
sensation.
Yeah.
But it's all the people showing their old songs. I tweeted out today, I was disappointed. I haven't seen one single person show a video of them playing Swing Swing.
I haven't either.
First. And to me, that's their best song, like by far. The other songs are good. But the fact I've seen the like three classics they're more recent.
Dirty Little Secret, Gives You Hell, and
I forget the title of the other one.
Move Along.
Yes. So those I tweeted that earlier today, and there were some people who agreed. Like I checked their set list, they're playing it,
but nobody has a video of it.
I'm disappointed.
It's because of the younger crowd.
Exactly.
Interesting. All right, Hunter, we're 5 minutes over. Make it quick.
I just think we need to start having the conversation about having a ESPN Wisconsin-wide take ban for Jesse Nelson. He started off the week trying to start the conversation of maybe we need to have the conversation about Pat Murphy getting fired. And then he went and saw Sinners the other day, and he said that it was overrated and he didn't like it. And I just think that is the worst take ever to that movie. And he's an
what
idiot.
you're saying is Jesse Nelson can no longer have opinions,
Yes.
which I kind of like that.
I think we'd be better off for it.
I think we would be too.
He is the architect of some of the most confounding things I've ever heard somebody say on the air.
I agree with that. Although this guy, I don't know if he has one or not, but this guy might be trending towards that category. Will Sommers, you got anything?
No, I don't got anything today. You guys killed it.
Good work.
Shocking. Good
My
job,
top
Dan.
3 were all the ones that you guys read.
All right, yeah.
I'm out.
It's good, Will. All right. Have a great weekend. We are not here Monday. We'll be back with you next Wednesday, so we'll have plenty to cover in the sports world.
We should definitely. I like the idea of Will every time he's here tracking the words I say that he doesn't know,
And then making that is what we learned.
and then you have to try and define them. They'll be removed of context, and you have to give it the old college try.
Yes.
Okay. We can
What do you
work
think,
on that.
Will?
Sounds like a tall task. A lot of brain power.
All you got to do is write it down. I'll be doing the effort on the definitions.
All right, I'll try.
All right, we're back with you Wednesday. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Make decent choices. Enjoy the okay weather. And we'll be back with you next Wednesday right here, beginning at 12:30. ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube. And, of course, the all-new, brand-new ESPN Wisconsin app. Pin us to the top while you're at it, would you? Talk to you then. Peace.